Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Hermitage, Strange Case Files. We're back in the bookstore again. We are the store manager again. Last episode, we met up with a friend of ours, apparently, from the past, called Scarlet, who kind of is working on the inside. We didn't really say exactly what she is, but it sounded like some sort of government official. And we're trying to get behind the story of a street collapse, or apparent street collapse. I can't remember what the area is called, but it was a street collapse which seems to coincide with Cecile's dream. So when she said that she saw people running away from something on like a viewing platform, that was the event that occurred. So she's seen stuff that happened in the past. And we're sort of like trying to, corroborate whether or not what she is seeing is real or not. And we're pretty certain now it's real. Anyway, let's see what our thoughts are right now. Guess I should smoke less or give it up. So unhealthy. It is possible to retrace visions of the past. I wouldn't even believe myself if Scarlet hadn't provided this excellent information. This definitely isn't an everyday situation that an average high school student would find themselves in. Something unusual must have happened to her recently. After all, it's strange to think that Cecile just happened to witness an accident that Scarlet happens to be investigating. Is it really just a coincidence that the two of them met? Okay, let's see what the case files are right now. Right, I think everything here is set up. We did this last time. New conclusion. Her visions reflect the past. So this is kind of interesting because she's trying to avoid like her friend who was an art student getting murdered. If her visions reflect the past, then surely this has happened already, right? In which case, she's dead. And we should expect the worst. Okay, we're not allowed to do bookshelf. I think it's next stage then. Keep progressing the hands of time. In the past, I've often asked myself if the concept of time is just some man-made cognitive illusion. A fantasy. Something you can just free yourself of and your problems will take care of themselves. My book search didn't go well. I've had enough time to rummage through the many collections because Hermitage was so empty. The ground floor is a large collection of medical and pharmaceutical classics, as well as many other obscure works, but I couldn't find anything. This whole concept of a vision or a dream come true is both too special and too vague at the same time. There are many records depicting strange experiences, but most of them are labelled as hallucinations. It's also very hard to verify their authenticity, seeing as they're often just claims without any solid evidence to back them up. There's not much I can do, I'm afraid. Holy moly, Cecile, can you be a bit more quiet when you come in? It's a fucking bookstore, what was that about? It's noon already. Now that I know more about her situation, I might be able to understand and be of more help this time round. Cecile greets me by bowing her head. Her face still looks pale, but it's a little more flushed than last time. She must feel very relieved to have found someone she can share her troubles with. Today is clearly not the right time to sell books. Ah, now I can do conversations. I was starting to worry that you wouldn't come by today. I'm sorry. The teacher wanted to talk to me about something. Oh? Nothing important, really. Cecile moves close to the corner of the room, making herself smaller. She seems to be really quiet and somewhat uncomfortable. Did you find any clues in the book I gave you? Cecile shakes her head and turns towards me. The text is very hard to understand. It's ancient. Looks like my language classes didn't pay off. Yep, you're not learning ancient, islander languages, are you, in, your spare time? Normally I imagine, I don't know really what a lot of East Asian people learn as like their second language, but I suspect a lot of the time they pick up English. But I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Because in the UK we pick up typically French, Spanish, or Germanish. Yeah, that's right. We pick up one of them normally. It must be really hard to go from Chinese, Japanese, Korean to English. That's a pretty big jump in, even the characters alone. But, who knows? Cecile's tone sounds self-critical. Well, I'm sure the author didn't write it thinking that one day a high school student would read it. Personally, I wonder if he ever intended for this book to be read. The writing style is all over the place, and very hard to grasp. It's hard to make out specific details. You know a lot more about these things than me. Is this just how old texts were written? I can only shake my head. The way it is written lacks composure, and often drifts into incoherent rambling. Okay, this sounds very Lovecraftian now. It's definitely not how you document professional research. Let's talk about the book later. I want to talk about some other issues today. Is that why you called me? Because you found something? I'm amazed that she would start talking about this topic on her own. I deliberately take a deep breath and lean forward a little. Cecile, we're not leaning in for a kiss. Yes, I found out quite a bit. And it's scary. This thing is big. Again, please phrasing, store manager. This is a schoolgirl. There's some things we need to talk about. Well, a lot of things actually. I got lucky. Finding out more wasn't that much trouble. As you probably expected, these dreams are definitely out of the ordinary. I have so much evidence now that even if you somehow forgot about them, I'd be able to convince you of their authenticity. How did you? The things you see are actual events from the past. I'm sure of that now. Maybe even more sure than you at this point. The big question is, why do you see them? Why is Y in red? Also, if this is in the past, as I said, you've just told your friend that their friend is dead. Which is the more worrying thing. I can understand that it's a lot easier to lie a little here and there. I can imagine how you must feel. I never blame you for it. However, you need to be careful. There might be people with ulterior motives out there. People who don't care about your well-being. Cecile's face suddenly carries a more serious expression. But there's no sign of confusion in her eyes. She clearly understands what I mean. For me, the answer to this whole thing is still shrouded in mystery. But to her, it seems a lot clearer. All the more reason to be completely honest with her. As you know, we are creatures of habit, driven by instinct. You worry about your friend's safety was enough to make you come to me and ask for my help. But it didn't really make you understand the situation any better. Something about your reaction to those dreams made me wonder from the very beginning. You asked me to find out more about what's going on in them, but you seem to take them for granted. As if they're something that you just regularly experience. Something expected. You don't seem to question why you have them. People usually don't have any expectations when it comes to their dreams. They're just something that happens. Whereas you jump straight into the process of analysing them and researching their contents. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's always a backstory, always an explanation. You seem to concentrate on the flame and take it for granted. But how was it lit? The young girl is completely silent. My argument might not be the best, but this is simply about convincing her and appealing to her conscience. I just need to make clear to her that I know what's really going on. That'll get her to talk eventually. If I'm not mistaken, these dreams appear fairly regularly. You know when they're going to happen. You can somehow even manipulate whether they're going to happen at all. I put further pressure on Cecile. Why do they actually appear? What causes them? I need to know that, and I know you're going to live up to my expectations of you and be honest. She knows more than she lets on. The fact that she's only interested in the meaning of her dreams, and that she's not at all concerned about the fact that she has these dreams in the first place, makes it obvious that she's hiding something. I'm a little disappointed in her, to be honest. Cecile is trying to avoid eye contact and apparently swiping at me. Her inner struggle takes her so long that I could finish reading a whole history encyclopedia in that time. Bluff. But in the end she comes to her senses, just as I expected. How should I put this? These dreams are connected to something called lilac grass. Lilac grass, sorry. R's and L's. She glances towards the door as if to make sure that nobody's listening in or watching. Then she pulls out a small blue bag. Is it that dank herb? Is it the devil's lettuce? I've seen bags with this shape on the streets of Bangkok before. You ignite the tip and it slowly burns down to the bottom. However, this one is less compact. It looks like it was made by hand. It's also quite large, close to the size of an index finger. What's this? Some kind of incense? Yes. I take the incense bag and carefully sniff the bottom. Don't get off high as Cecile's supply. It smells sweet and woody, but I don't notice any change in my consciousness. Why do you call it lilac grass? That's what Eloise told me it was called. I don't know if there's another name for it. Incense and hallucinations? That's a combination that brings quite a few bad stories to mind. I realise that now, too, but I didn't think it was that big a deal, you know? Plenty of kids carry these bags around and use them. I never gave it much thought because it's so widespread. Lilac grass sounds something of a sort of incense adults would use for essential oil massages. My friend said that when the mind is on edge, this can be very effective. We get along really well, so we often work together or hang out after school. And Eloise never mentioned anything about these dreams. She only said that the incense has a calming effect and that it's used to help with stress. Cecile shakes her head and takes the bag from my hands. We close the classroom window and then light up the incense. It burns for about 10 minutes. It smells very sweet, like a variety of flowers mixed with juice and water, all blended together. The first few times, it only gives me peace of mind. Sounds around me were still clear, and my vision wasn't altered or anything. It just washed my troubles away, made me feel at ease. So, this calming effect was the only thing at first, meaning the dreams only started happening after prolonged use? Cecile nods. I also asked Eloise, but she never had a similar dream experience with incense. Maybe everyone responds to it differently, right? I told myself it was nothing to be concerned about. After all, even if there were some horrifying images, they went away as soon as the incense burned up. Just like waking up from a real dream, you know. It's simply over. I put out my cigarette, since smoking seems increasingly harmful right now. So, the incense is the cause of these mysterious dreams. Well, this certainly makes things more strange, but at least now there's a concept that we can grasp. Sorry, I was just worried. I didn't want to get caught and be considered some kind of druggie. In the end, this is no different from drug use. You should be smart enough to know that. Trust me, I'm really not the kind to preach, but you should be aware that these things can have all kinds of consequences. The fact that these things you see are real and have actually happened is what worries me the most. It's not just a fantasy of your brain chemistry playing tricks on you. This is something much more dangerous. Cecile lowers her head. I assume that I got my point across. There's no need to make this even more embarrassing for her, so I decide to move on. It would be irresponsible to stop investigating this now that we know it's not just fantasy, and you've got your own personal reasons to get to the bottom of this too. My own reasons? Cecile's face is overcome with a sudden flash of sadness, but she quickly regains her focus. If all those events were real, then I can't just ignore certain dreams. That's right. Like, well, what happened to your friend Eloise? I need more information if you want to get to the bottom of this. Not just about your classmate Eloise, your club, your school, and this lilac grass. I need to know more. Of course. If only for her sake. It's okay. Cheer up. There are still a few questions I want to ask you. About the use of incense, ask about the art club. Ask Cecile about the details of a vision of Eloise, or ask about Eloise's student representative. Let's ask about the art club. Can you tell me more about your club? According to what you said yesterday, the situation at the art club is pretty much a powder keg waiting to blow. That sounds a little... Well, it's somewhat true. It's tougher than most people would assume. Although the teacher doesn't get involved too much, he set up strict requirements. The students don't complain about that, though. They're used to it. Do you think the others might have it out for you because they don't think you're up to par? I think that could be one of the reasons, yes. They've been giving me strange looks since the very beginning. Eloise helps me practice. I think if it wasn't for her, both the students and teachers would be meaner towards me. Sounds tough. I used to feel pretty confident in my abilities, but now I compare myself to others a lot, and I often doubt my skills. Being an artist is a profession. Being an artist is a profession, after all. Sad as it is, you have to gain recognition in these circles first. You're just not quite there yet, and it has nothing to do with whether you're good or not. Come to think of it, the greatest irony is the fact that there are standards for art in the first place. Am I getting off topic? You don't have to be nice. There's a huge skill gap, and that's obvious. I'm far more inexperienced than the others. And you think they're going to use that against you and force you out of the club? That's what it seemed like to me. But things have calmed down a lot ever since Eloise butted heads with them and defended me. She really seems to go out of her way to help you. She really does. I just wish I was more courageous. Cecile looks sad. Regret and self-blame accompany her words. All I did was freeze. She stood up for me, a transfer student, and argued with everyone else. I was speechless and didn't know how to react. In the end, I just silently left the classroom. I was afraid that I'd make things worse by saying something wrong. So their attention was on her, and she shouldered the blame. She told me not to think about it too much, but it still made me feel bad and selfish. What should I say? If you just go along with it, maybe the conflict will resolve itself. I have no basis for saying that, but your choices aren't that bad either. Even if I know that deep down, I still can't accept it. For a moment I saw my friend's eyes go sad. It must be hard for her, too. People don't act as reckless towards me as they did before. I'm not saying they like me, but they don't go out of their way to bully me as much anymore. How to know if something is right or wrong? Maybe this isn't the best moment to think about it. So this just went into the case files, and I can just freely go to this. So Cecile's decision. According to Cecile, Eloise has been standing up for ever since she joined the club. However, the student issues weren't immediately resolved. To avoid further trouble for Eloise, Cecile chose to suffer alone. Fair enough. Okay, what do we want to ask next? Let's ask for more details about the vision. I know it's not easy, but I'd like to talk about Eloise again. About what happened to her in your dream. Cecile's expression turns to stone. I know it's not easy to talk about it, and it's very personal. If you don't want to, no, it's okay. Her answer is a mere whisper. Her eyes still reveal some uneasiness and fear, but she seems more composed than she was yesterday. I'm ready. Cecile takes a deep breath, mustering up as much courage as possible. It seems as if she's been mentally preparing for today. So, can you describe the environment around you again? Yesterday, you didn't really give the clearest description. It was, chaotic to say the least. Cecile lets out a bitter laugh. One thing was totally clear, and that was Eloise lying on the ground. It might be because of my own fear, but the surrounding environment was just a big blur. It was a quartz floor. I could see that much. Our building has the same style of floor tiles in the hallway and stairways. Man, this place must be pretty expensive to go to. Her art tools were scattered everywhere, strewn about on the ground, but it was hard to make out details. So it was indoors? I couldn't see any familiar chairs or desks, and the classroom floor is different. You said there was a lot of blood around her head. Were there any other signs of injury besides that? There was some slight bruising on her arm, I couldn't see it very clearly. Her hair covered up a lot. One more thing. Her clothes were particularly messy. Something that wouldn't just happen from falling to the ground. It was horrible. The wound is arguably the most direct clue we have. Even without any expertise, the average person could deduce a lot from that through common sense, and I can ask some friends who are experts on this matter for help. But overall, Cecile's description is way too vague to find out exactly what happened. There's something else. You said you were able to make out a painting. Can you describe it? I can't recall many details, but the painting's paper was thin and it was torn open. I've seen that painting around before, even though I can't remember what was on it. The impression is still imprinted on my mind. Early prediction. Draws like disturbing painting, something tears out of the painting and kills her. That's my prediction. Maybe you could look for it. It might offer up some clues. I've tried to find it, but, well, that's all we have so far. Okay, let me see what was in the case file. More hair. Painting in a pool of blood. Okay, nothing particularly new there. Let's ask about the use of incense. Although there's no tangible evidence, I think it's safe to assume your dreams are directly related to the use of this incense. So I'd like to know more about this lilac grass. When were you first exposed to it? When did you first enter this dream state? Just give me all the details from around that time. Anything that happened before, during, and after. Anything could be a useful clue. Cecile lowers her head and starts pondering, trying to remember something. Sometime around the middle of September, I think. At that time, Eloise was getting into a lot of fights and arguments with others to defend me. I felt so bad seeing her like this, and I blamed myself. I was in a very dark place. Eloise approached me one day and told me not to worry so much. That's when she first gave me one of those bags. So that's when you started using it? Well, maybe once or twice a week, although our club is always open. Thursday afternoon is a fixed recreational time for everyone. That already seems quite excessive. Also, I don't know if I should say this, but nobody really talks about it, but the weekly use of incense was Eloise's idea. She suggested it to the students. She said using it regularly over a period of 2 months would increase everyone's mood and mental performance. I see. Does she know where the incense comes from? I've asked her that before, but she says only that her uncle knows, an expert on Chinese medicine, and he knows a lot about these things. Sorry, I butchered that sentence, but you get the gist. She said that making the incense is a real hassle. The wood has to be soaked in a herbal water, and is then cooked several times before it being ground into a powder. This reminds me of that really expensive wood again. I think this is around Thailand or something, where, I can't remember what this is called, but it's like the most expensive wood per unit measurement. And whatever this tree is called, and I've completely forgot its name, it's like agave or something, agave maybe? And they purposely get it infected with like this fungus, which infects the inside of the tree and it releases like this very fragrant sap. Then they cut down the tree, when it's reached a certain point, pull out all this like infected region where like the tree sap has gone into it, and then they burn it as an incense, and apparently it smells very sweet. I think it goes to like, I can't remember what the measurement of wood is, but it's like 10,000 pounds per, I don't know, square foot or something. It's insane. But just for incense. But the herbs have strange names, so I can't remember any of them. So this looks different. This is like wood being soaked. Cecile looks frustrated. Don't blame yourself. Let's just look ahead. So, you said the first hallucination occurred after a prolonged period of use. Just over half a month ago, to be exact. Early October, then. But that's a national holiday. Our school doesn't really give us time off on holidays. Monsters. She has to smile a little. Not having holidays doesn't seem that bad in comparison to everything else going on right now. It's pretty bad still. Ask about Eloise as a student representative. Yesterday you said Eloise frequently gets into arguments and doesn't get along that well with others. I'm a little curious. If that's the case, then how did she end up with her position? Sounds like there's been a lot of trouble lately, right? I'm not really sure, but I once overheard two teachers talking. Oh? This year's change of representatives was unusual, but the school had to do it, or else it would have had severe consequences. Sounds like there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I don't know the teachers that well, so I couldn't just ask them about what exactly happened. A new representative? A big change like this is bound to leave some sort of traces. Is her suddenly having such an important position the reason others have had a problem with Eloise? I don't really think that's the real reason. Usually, even if someone they don't like ends up in a representative position, the students aren't really bothered about it. And although it's a nice title, there's a limit to what a representative can actually do. They basically help teachers send and receive things, and sometimes they attend school meetings to represent the student body. They don't do much else. I see. So it's really just a fancy title after all. I mean, it's something good for your CV too. A few students seem to care and deliberately keep their distance. Usually, they're the ones who take the lead in picking on classmates, so there is a lot of resentment towards them. Do they have their eyes on you too? Not right now. I've been avoiding the seniors. Cecile's expression relaxes a little and shows a hint of a smile. Seems like you want things to stay how they are. If she always has my back, will they start to focus on her? I don't want that to happen. She's done more than enough for me already. You could ask your teachers. That would only make things worse. Her expression becomes more gloomy. That day, I stood outside the classroom and heard them arguing about something with Eloise. I heard someone say that if she overstepped her boundaries, they wouldn't give any credit to the art club at the next semester competition. So, like a strike then? I understand that it's important for her to ignore a threat to such an important event. So it's a balancing act between the two sides for her. I'm sure it's really getting to her. It's clear that there are some problems going on in the background. Cecile begins to mumble. She's obviously sad and doesn't want to get into this topic any further. Time passes by way too quickly. We made some progress, but nothing groundbreaking. The hallucinations made their first appearance after she started using incense. There's an obvious connection there. I highly doubt that it could be a mere coincidence. Other factors as of yet unknown might be involved, but the causal link between the two is clear. The origin of this incense, called Lilac grass, is unknown, but Cecile explained how to use it. We have no way of finding out how this trend started. Students at that age are easily manipulated and eager to try new things. It's possible that someone spiked the incense and mixed something else into it. No one would notice until it was too late. In recent years, the abuse of LSD has become increasingly popular among underage population. If lilac grass has begun to spread among the students, I would have more access to information, but it would also mean that the situation is getting worse. This could just be one example of something much bigger going on. Then there's the matter of Cecile seeing Eloise in her dreams. If these dreams are rooted in reality, there might be more to Elise than she lets on. She is, after all, the person supplying Cecile with the incense. Sooner or later, Cecile will have to confront her and ask her about its origins if she wants to find out more about the details. It's a very serious thing for a student to be physically injured at school. Such events are far more likely to leave a mark than anything else. I feel sorry for Cecile, but we should probably take a break. That seems to be all for today. I put away my pen and accompany Cecile to the door. Cecile looks quite exhausted. She bows politely. By the way, it would be better if you didn't use lilac grass anymore. You don't know exactly where it comes from, so you shouldn't take it lightly. Well, if Eloise asks, I'll make up some excuse. I know you care about her a lot, but be aware of the fact that she's hiding something. I'll get in touch with you as soon as I find out more. It's just up to you to decide whether or not you approach her. I think that's enough for now. We've talked quite a bit. I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time. Goodbye. Phew. My initial questions have been answered, but many more have come up and the whole dynamic of this case is changing. No one's to blame. Small progress is better than no progress, but if this is the pace at which we'll continue moving forwards. Anyway, I should share what I found with Scarlet. I decided to ignore my growling empty stomach and go back inside to continue working. Okay, let's see what my thoughts are right now. There's nobody here. Time to collect my thoughts. I've never come across this so-called lilac grass. But many hallucinogenic plants have been used throughout history, and the search for illusions never went out of fashion. The question is where this lilac grass came from. As long as I don't know that, there's no way of knowing the extent of its effects. Considering that Cecile should be more concerned about what she's seen, Hermitage does have a lot of medicinal books in its collection, so maybe it's time to start looking for them. Maybe I can go to the bookshelves right now. Nope, I still can't use the bookshelf, fair enough. Let's check the case files. Is there anything else to do right now? Oh, I can drag intel into the next section. Can I? Or do you have to get a prompt? I presume I have to get a prompt. Okay, I presume I need a prompt, because I think it appeared on this left-hand side before, when I was about to uncover something new. Okay. Then I guess we're done for today. We can browse the internet a little bit more. Nighttime. Looks like it's going to start raining any moment now. How about some more appropriate weather for once? It's closing time and I fumble for the key to the front door of the ground floor and slip it into my pocket. An hour and a half of talking. 4 cups of coffee? Are you crazy? You're gonna have a heart attack. Like, did she walk out? Did she vibrate out of the room? Crazy. The perfect recipe for an overactive bladder. Bathroom. It would have been impossible to fit a bathroom anywhere on the ground floor, but at times like this, just a few flights of stairs can seem especially long. What the hell is wrong with today's youth? No one would accuse anyone for bad behaviour alone, but an unprovoked attack demonstrates the injustice in the world. Plain and simple. Cecile doesn't seem to be from a rich family. How is it even possible for her to go to Phoenix High? Time to head out. I wash my hands and go back downstairs. Oh, not internet time then apparently. Hello. I don't think I'm seeing clearly. I might as well go back and rinse out my eyes. Good evening, sir. Are you alright? I would be if you hadn't shown up. I answer loudly from outside the door. I'm sorry. I've picked a bad time to visit since you're off work. May I come in? It's really inconvenient to talk like this. The visitor's trench coat and hat are drenched. He seems unperturbed, casually covering a briefcase he is holding on his left hand. He has the same build as me, with an inconspicuous face. Judging by his complexion, he's most likely from Europe, but he doesn't have any prominent features. That's a bit mean. His composure is meticulous, straight and expressionless, so it's impossible to know what is going on in his head. I'm afraid that's not a good thing. New person to chat with, I guess. I'm relieved to see you're still here. Seeing as you're here now, I can't go, so what's up? I wanted to confirm that you're well. I also have a few books that I would like to sell on my behalf. What? I didn't expect you of all people to want me to sell your books one day. What with your current status, I think you'll be well suited for this assignment. It just makes sense. The statement is so on point that I can't even find an excuse to deny it. To be honest, I don't even remember where I first met this strange guy, but I knew he would come by, mostly to make sure that I was still staying at the bookstore. After all, this unfriendly person in front of me was the one who offered me a place to hide after the incident. Ah. The visitor opens his briefcase, methodically removing book after book from it, and placing them on the work desk. They look like old volumes, most of which have been repackaged with plastic covers. The mountain of books doesn't seem like it could have fitted into that slim leather briefcase. Ah, it's a bag of holding, I see. I think we should talk about your definition of a few books. You're trustworthy, and I know you don't want any trouble. You can turn your attention back to other matters if you've sold the books. The profit margin you take from the sale is up to you. You're not selling books. You're giving them away, friend. I pick up one of them and flip through the pages at random. Can writing on paper really be considered a product? I've always been skeptical of that. Knowledge can never be measured in money. And if a book is purchased for knowledge, then I value destiny more than the price tag. Real smooth talker, this guy. I didn't peg you for a romantic. I'll go ahead and agree to this, but I won't take anything that's too dangerous. It won't sell anyway. I knew you wouldn't refuse. You couldn't know that for sure. These books come in all sorts of categories, and I give up my perusal of the books to study the catalogue. Modern poetry collections, newspaper clippings, current political commentary, investigation reports, field notes, yearbooks. Honestly, you're leaving me with 2 copies of Story Club here? I think some of these books are still... Huh? What is it? It's nothing. These aren't bad. I'll keep them for you. This might work. I closed the book in my hand and tried to control my facial expression. That's good. Now that you've taken these off my hands, I shall take my leave. He picks up his briefcase and turns sharply to face the door. You're leaving already? Don't you want to wait out the rain? The delivery man ignores my advice. Man, like, if you took that advice in, like, Manchester, you'd never leave the bloody bookstore. It'd be a great custom, by the way, to trap, your customers in there. Many people have done things like, like roller coaster tycoon things where you get people into the theme park, and you just block that doorway off. They will spend all their money in this park. You have ATMs, don't worry. Keep buying burgers, keep sustaining, keep living. That's what it would be if you waited out the rain in Manchester. Now that the purpose of my visit has been served, there is no need for me to take up any more of your time. I'll be in touch again, when the time is right. Good luck to you. He lifts his hat in farewell, and then disappears outside the store. My lady? A cold sweat breaks out my skin and my clothes are sticking to my back. I quietly move towards the door and check the surroundings. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but there seems to be a tall girl on the other side of the street. She's facing this way, holding up a cell phone for a photo. After she notices me looking, she quickly puts away the phone and makes her way to the subway station nearby. Probably just someone who's interested in architecture. I don't think so. After all, the building looks like a piece of cake with the top cut off, which is a relatively rare shape for a house. What are you talking about? Are you just saying that it's like on the corner? Like it's a V shape? It is the shape of a Trivial Pursuit piece? Is that what we're saying? I can't worry too much about this right now. I make my way back inside and approach the old bookcases. The former owner of Hermitage made good use of the available space, managing to stuff 3 sets of bookshelves inside. The shelves are categorised by somewhat self-conscious namings such as S, Ick, and Uberek. They're huge and filled to the brim, limiting the line of sight. The air is damp and warm. I mean, that's not good for books, is it? Damp and warm. Like, the ink is going to leak out of the pages. Or leach, sorry, not leak. Because the rooms are quite small, customers can pick up a book from anywhere on the ground floor and allow themselves to drown in its pages while enjoying a quiet and private reading experience. Okay. Being entranced by what you're reading can definitely screw with your perception of time. Sitting there, watching rays of light shimmering through the window, occasionally broken up by the silhouette of a customer walking by, light and darkness interrupted at an irregular interval while time slips away without anyone noticing. What a great feeling. But today, there's no time to relax and enjoy the moment. That guy, he knows something, that's for sure. No matter how much I think about it, I can't remember ever telling him about the whole situation with Cecile. There are some strange, unfamiliar books among the ones he delivered. No one could guess what exactly they're about, just by checking the title. Hermitage has always been a relatively safe place, hidden away from prying eyes. Being able to hide someone in such a big city says a lot about this man's capabilities. He must know a lot of things. He helps me, but I've had my suspicions since the very beginning. He has his own agenda, no doubt about that. It's a classic case of too good to be true. There must be some reason as why he decided to help me. Anyway, if I don't want any trouble, I should check out the books. I approached the bookshelf and placed the newly arrived books in the most inconspicuous spot in the corner. Things are slowly starting to get back to normal. I should have a look at the first book he gave me. Ah! Codex Seraphim? This store is the most interesting section. Okay, I put the most important books in this bookcase. Seems to me that the new books are perfect for this section. Oh. Codex Seraphim, a local print of the Codex Seraphim. The author is unknown. A local print, yeah, okay, we read this. An encyclopedia with pictures and text. It hasn't been translated. The book contains a large number of explanatory images, but the language is composed of unknown characters that vaguely resemble English and are unreadable. The only thing written in actual English is the title. One page is folded as if to draw attention to it. It shows two people in bed whose bodies are overlapping and bizarrely morphing into a crocodile. Someone used a pencil to add a footnote. Eli, Lemma, Sabachthani. Eli, Lemma, Sabachthani. We'll do it. That'll do. Right, Chronicles of Crane Temple. An old thread-bound book. The author claims to be a Taoist. The paper is very old, and the edges of the text are blurry, most likely because it was written by hand. The book is divided into two parts. The first part is about rise and upkeeping of an old Taoist concept called crane view. A detailed description with historical examples is given. The second part is written in the form of an autobiography. A fanged demon, called the Scaled Great One, with horrifyingly sharp claws is mentioned. Later on, the author succumbs to the madness surrounding him. The last half of the second part is chaotic and confusing, lacking any sort of coherence and logic. A lot of the numbers are just jumbled into the text. The last sentence that makes any sense is, "The skies as well as the earth are dark and treacherous. An ancient mystery we mustn't look at, for the Scaled Great One looks right back at us." What follows is a chaotic sequence of numbers. 155, 413, 12. Hello, this is the Taoist pizza restaurant. Would you like to take our order? Right, what else have we got? History of Cannibalism. Hardcover written by Hong Chu-han. Judging from the obvious craftsmanship demonstrated in the making of this book, it's definitely rare and wasn't printed in the factory. It's not bound in human skin, is it? It's a compilation of old historic folklore tales. The book records a large number of instances of cannibalism from ancient times up until the modern Republic of China. Most of it is based on hearsay, with very little actual evidence provided by the author. The book specifically mentions that there were more than a dozen cannibal villages among the southern coasts, but they were either disbanded or its inhabitants were killed in shipwrecks. Okay. By the way, I can't really go to this narrative now. Let's just read all the books. Ancient Prescriptions. A paperback rebound in a white cover featuring only the title of the book. There's a little bit of dirt on some of the pages, but there are no signs of wear and tear. It's apparently the original owner meticulously maintained the book and kept it in great condition. Judging by the way of writing, it's safe to assume this book was written during the time of the Republic of China. The book contains a large number of strange medicinal recipes that are supposed to make flesh from bone and raise the dead. Ancient texts further describe the application of Chinese recipes, while foreign recipes were reinterpreted by the author. Is this the Necronomicon? In broken English. In a chapter called Spirit Fragmentation, the author mentions the recipe for a powder derived from a formula discovered by the famous Taoist Laozi. Is it Laozi? Supposedly, it can move your soul and show you another path, and return the years long lost to you. This powder doesn't appear only in China. The book states that it was spread by travellers from Southeast Asia, and it still exists today. Ah, is this the incense? My bet is this is the incense. Interesting. Right. Papyri Graki Magicisai. Wait, is it Graysai? Magisai? I don't know. The book seems unusual and is most likely from abroad. It's written in English. Okay. Promise you I'm English. I think this is Latin? The title roughly translates to Greek Magical Papyri. The text including contain mostly excerpts related to the mysterious rituals and magic spells discovered in ancient Greek ruins. The author added illustrations and spells to these rituals to make them more accessible. A part of the book called Aphrodite's Blessing of Luck and Love includes several pieces of old parchment paper which describe in detail how certain pattern needs to be printed onto stone tablets to complete the ritual. Okay. Right, what was this? Tomb... Oh, I don't know. It was tomb something. Tomb maintenance. The book uses the common specifications of domestic textbooks, and the table of contents indicates that it's a textbook for landscape architecture, focusing on the style, layout, and cultural background of the mausoleum architecture around the world. However, deviating from the table of contents, most parts of the book relate to a large mausoleum located in a place called the Land of Nine Evils. According to the book, the Qinshuang Mausoleum belonged to an emperor named Qin Shi Huang, but it does not include further references and information about the emperor's age, time, and deeds. The book uses the behaviour of crustaceans as an analogy to the construction process of the mausoleum and includes a list of all different types of craftsmanship at work. According to the book, the sky turned red, heavy rain ploughed through the pitch-black soil, and the mausoleum became a tomb. Crustaceans and stuff, sea-like stuff, that is very Lovecraft. Okay, that's it. That's really... I can't help but sigh. It pains me to admit it, but this is the most progress I've made in the last 2 days. It irritates me that it took someone else to help me get to this point. My eyes are strained from focusing so hard in such bad lighting conditions. I placed the books in a column marked, not for sale, borrowing only. That man is impossible to analyse. I should really handle things carefully until I know more about what his intentions are. Interesting. Just before I go, I just noticed there's 3 books in the bottom corner, I think. Literally, as they flicked off, I was like, wait a minute. These are also highlighted. So I'll read these now. The Call of Cthulhu. A kitten with tentacles is looking straight at the reader from the front of this hardcover, published in 2017. It's a rulebook for role-playing game in which players seem to be cats. The author dedicates a lot of chapters to the various characters inhabiting this game's world, the things the player can do as a cat, and all the mysteries hidden in the cat world. Unlike other games of this kind, the author did away with a lot of the more complex rule sets. Common systems such as dice rolling to determine actions have been simplified, in this case being replaced by a less complicated cat dice, an invention by the author to streamline the experience for casual players. Despite its casual appearance, the author has spared no effort and gone into great detail. Many of the fictional old gods in this game are apparently imitating classic imagery, but have been changed into cat versions of their former selves. One can't help but smile when playing this game. Apparently there's more to come and more things to be introduced in future chapters, but this one's already pretty good. Nice, I like it. Wild Magic. A hardcover published in 2017, the scene of that horrific creature on the cover is really chilling. This book is for advanced investigators who have already read The Trail of Cthulhu. It is devoted to the magic spells and incantations associated with the Cthulhu myth. It covers all knowledge that an aspiring magician must master, from cheap street parlor magic tricks all the way to occult rituals to summon various ancient gods. Everything is included in this small book, making it a dangerous read. What makes this book particularly horrifying is the fact that it's told straight from the viewpoint of a magic practitioner living in a world based on the Cthulhu myth. Being exposed to all this might drastically change how readers perceive the world around them. Okay, and the Trail of Cthulhu. So this was the one we were meant to read before. A hardcover published in 2015. There are strange letters and illustrations on the cover. A hardcover published in 2015. Yes, I read that. People known as investigators are willing to pay any price in the pursuit of our world's deepest and darkest hidden secrets. This book serves as an introductory manual, secretly spread among these investigators. It describes the necessary skills that investigators need to have, and the many dangers they will face, most of which are horrible and twisted enough to make them wish for a quick and merciful death. The historical setting of this book is the United States in 1930s. The knowledge contained in here is enough to shake up how you view the world, seeing as how it lays open the dark hidden truth behind our history. In addition, the book also covers many aspects of Cthulhu mythology, including the introduction of deities and creatures, magic spells and ancient scriptures, all of which are described in vivid detail. Nice. I like it. I don't know if that's actually relevant or just a nod to, the Cthulhu mythos this game is based on, but either way, I approve. Anyway, I think for this episode, I'm going to call it here before I finish my work for today, and we'll go on to a fresh day next time. If you're enjoying this series, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, because I'm getting really I'm getting really into this at the moment. I'm just wondering where things will go. And I think it's going to be going to the school, so join me in the next part where we try and figure out what on earth is going on. Goodbye.